Hey everyone, I'm Alex.
And I'm Courtney, and this is Nerds at Odds.
Your weekly podcast about all things in nerd culture and beyond.
We would like to remind everyone to please rate and review the podcast.
And also to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Nerds at Odds. We post updates about the shows and pictures of Keita on those.
I post a lot of pictures of Keita, like every day.
Yeah, and if you want to get the show 4 days early, ad-free, and with the ability to submit your questions, comments, and concerns, you can head on over to patreon.com/nerdsatodds. And today's topic is the podcast. We're going to talk about our favorite podcasts, kind of in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I thought. Things we're thankful for, the shows that keep us entertained. But before that, let's get on into what we've been doing recently. Courtney, what have you been up to?
So, I've been watching some stuff while you were doing other things. I was just like, I want to watch The Prince of Egypt, which is a movie from my childhood, made by DreamWorks.
Yeah, shout out to the Pixar vs. DreamWorks episode, which everyone loved.
It was good. It's still good. Music's great. Very dark. Lot of. There's this one scene. So if you don't know the story of Moses, there's like all the plagues that he brings down upon Egypt. Well, that God brings down upon Egypt. And the last one is the death of the firstborn sons. Or the firstborn. Firstborn. And there's this scene where this like little boy is like has like a vase of water or something, and he goes into the door, and then you see like the little white thing go in that takes the firstborn sons, and you just hear a crash, and then you see an arm fall out the door, and I'm like, whoa,
that is dark.
Whoa.
Moses is the book of Exodus, right?
I don't know.
Okay,
I think so.
I mean, a lot of this Old Testament stuff's dark.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, kind of Wrath of God sort of stuff, but
it is weird for a kid's movie, too.
It is weird, especially because, the thing about Moses is that his mom was protecting him in the story. Protecting him because the Pharaoh was having all, like, the babies killed because in the movie they're like, oh, the slaves, they got too numerous. And so they take all the babies and throw them in the Nile, and the crocodiles eat them, and you see that.
Cool. So, to not dwell on this DreamWorks versus Pixar again, we might do a second video at some point. Let's move on into what else you've been doing. It says you've been reading some more of this book, Song in the Silence.
Yes. That dragon book.
Is it good yet?
It's getting good. It really picked up when she left the farm, I guess.
It's one of those Final Fantasy 13 scenarios where it's like you have to play 40 hours before it gets good. You have to read a bunch of this book before it gets good.
No, I mean, like, the first chapter was basically like, I'm tall, and I'm plain, and I'm a woman, and I've never been away from home, and blah, blah, blah. But once you get past, like, the first chapter, then it starts getting more interesting. I really like the female protagonist. Her name's Lannon, I think.
I don't know. I haven't read this book.
She seems nice, Since I grew up in a small town, I kind of see where she's coming from.
Are you ready for the inevitable YA movie or TV show based on this
I don't
book?
think there's going to be. It's an old book.
And I think the YA genre has died out a lot recently.
Probably. My sister said that there were sequels to it, but they weren't as good, so I might not read those.
And since this one isn't all that...
Well, I mean, I haven't gotten to the dragons yet, so we'll see how it is when I get to the dragons.
Okay. And
I'm enjoying it more, like,
It's wrapping up.
Yeah.
What else have you been up to?
So I have been playing more Spiritfarer.
You still enjoying that?
It's very good. It's kind of sad. It's basically like a game about death in a way, and like accepting death, like it's inevitable.
Yeah.
But I'm trying my best, I feel bad because, like, you do something that is supposed to help, and then they get mad at you, but you're doing the right thing,
That's how life works sometimes.
And then there's some people are just so picky. It's like, oh, let me feed you. Oh, I can't eat fine dining. Yeah, that's not my sort of thing. And I'm like, it's just food, It's just food.
Yeah, well, also it says you've been playing more of the Harry Potter puzzles and spells.
Yes.
That's still going well.
Yeah, I still don't like the spiders crawling all over my screen.
Are they still there?
Well, they're doing, like, this Halloween theme going on where you collect the spiders.
Seems like
so
the
they're
type of
like,
thing you're into.
well, they're like hanging out on a like a little puzzle part, like one of the little jewels, I guess.
Mhm.
And when you match it, they like jump off and they just crawl. And I don't like it because I have a fear of spiders.
And you've also been playing some Manor Matters.
Manor Matters.
Manor Matters.
Yes, it is an iOS game like Harry Potter Puzzles and Spells, and it's like a find it game. You know, like
I Spy,
like
those
I
type of
Spy
books,
book, yeah. But it's like time crunch sort of thing, and I'm trying my best, and I'm like, that's a silhouette of something, I guess.
From the little bit I watched you play, it seems very like microtransaction-y.
I mean, it could get into microtrans. I don't play like that. I don't really like doing that. I'll do it for some games, like that Merge Magic game. I really enjoyed. Like if I really like a game on the iOS, I'll do it.
Put some money into Pokemon Go.
Yes.
You know what would be an interesting feature that the App Store could implement?
What?
It would be cool to see how much you spent on each game, being able to go into like the options and just see.
Yeah.
Because I wonder how many people like just don't realize they've spent $10 a month in Pokemon Go for the past 5 years and suddenly spent hundreds of dollars. You know?
Well, you know, it's what they enjoy.
Yeah, I'm just saying like it could be a useful app to help people. So. Apple, if you're out there, iOS 14.1.2.7 include that. And that's it. Is that it for your week?
That's all for me. I've been working, and I played a lot of Spiritfarer.
Yeah. But, I mean, we talk about that
watching
like each
YouTube,
week, so.
You know, listening to podcasts.
I feel like for us, and for most people out there, in our circles, you know, that with the upcoming, you know, November and December next-gen consoles, new game releases, maybe for the next couple months it's like a holding pattern, you know? Mm-hmm. Like not much exciting going on. Which brings me to kind of what I've been doing. I've been doing some stuff that's pretty old by video game standards, just trying to grind out some platinums. I've been playing some South Park Fractured Butthole to get the platinum. I'm almost there. I just need to do some collectibles. I really enjoy the game. I like the show, so the humor works with me. Courtney detests the humor. But I honestly think my favorite part of the game is the combat system. It's actually pretty fun just to fight people. I don't know how much more I can say on the show and keep it family friendly. But if you like South Park, and if you're okay with that type of humor in like turn-based combat games, I think you should try this one out. This one and Stick of Truth. I'm really enjoying it. This is about superheroes, Stick of Truth, medieval knights and stuff. I've also been playing in like quotation marks, loose terms, playing Fallout Shelter, which I'm one trophy away. I have to stop 50 raider attacks. In my first Shelter, I got up to 26, but I was playing the game like legit, so I got too many people in my Shelter, so Deathclaw started to attack. And raiders wouldn't anymore. So I had to start a new Shelter. And I've just been letting it run in the background when I have just a few settlers in it. So raiders will keep attacking. I'm up to 24. And I thought I was going to pop the trophy. But it's 50 in a single vault and not 50 overall. So I'm going to have to grind that for another week or two. Which was upsetting.
I mean, you know, it's whatever.
You played Fallout Shelter for a while when I was
a little bit,
first playing it. Yeah. Did you like it?
It was fun. I mean, you know, it's also kind of microtransaction-y.
It is. It's free to play, though, if you want to check it out. It's on pretty much anything.
Yeah, iOS, Switch,
Xbox, PlayStation, Smart Fridge. It's on everything. Alright. Next, what else have I been doing? I've been playing some more Pokemon, Sword and Shield, Crown Tundra. I don't think I've seen you play it since last week.
No, I haven't played it. It's just the fact that there's no story.
Yeah, I can't really blame you, because I played it for about an hour or so this past week combined. I caught the legendary Pokemon, right? Mm-hmm. I blew through that. I don't really care about hunting down the birds.
The legendary birds?
And the, what are they? The Gigas? What are they called?
Oh, like Regigigas?
Yeah. The Reggies, that's what
the Reggies. Regirock, Regice, Regigigas.
Yeah, I don't really care about hunting those down or the birds. And it's like not much to do.
Registeel.
And yet, last week, if you guys listened to our Halloween special, which was last week's episode, at the beginning in this segment, I talked about how I like this DLC idea for Pokemon,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm thinking now, at least with how they've delivered these two and what they've done with them, I think I have reverted to liking the release an updated version of the game model.
Yeah.
Because it's what you said last week, I'm not going to put anyone on my team. I'm not doing anything except grinding this dex out.
I mean, I feel like the DLCs are more for people who haven't finished the main story yet, and they're looking for more Pokemon to put on their team, but I've already finished the main story. I already have, I don't remember its name, like Zycan or something? I don't remember.
Oh, the legendary sword guy?
Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest with you. By the time I got to the end of the game, I didn't put the legendary on my team.
He's not on my team, no.
Yeah, the only reason the Urshifu legendary from the first DLC is on my team is because I didn't have a good water or fighting type, and he's both.
Yeah, I like him, and I got the big bad legendary from the game.
Yeah, the cannon-looking one.
Yeah, the dragon thing. I got that.
So, I mean, I enjoyed... Sword and Shield's really good. It still might be my favorite Pokemon game. But I think they need to do more with the DLCs next time around. It needs to be more substantial.
There needs to be story.
Yeah.
Like, at least, like, so you have Diamond and Pearl, and then you have Platinum. And Platinum goes more in with story. That's what these need to do. Like, it could just be a little bit of story, you know?
Yeah, maybe, at least for the first DLC, story might not be the issue, but structure, right?
Well, I feel like in the first DLC, the Isle of Armor?
Yeah.
So, when you get towards the end of it, the guy, his name is like, what, Pickle or something?
The gym leader?
Mustard.
Mustard, yeah.
Mustard. He's like, oh, well, you know, you're gearing up for that big fight. And you're like, what big fight? And he's like, oh, you'll know. And I think it's supposed to be played before you beat the game. Because it shows, like, the two wolves in the clouds.
Maybe. I mean, at the end of Crown Tundra, from what I've read online, and I guess this might be spoilerish, there's a tournament that you fight in, so it might be alluding to that.
I don't know.
But
they look like wolves in the sky.
Yeah.
So.
I like the idea of the Isle of Armor story, right?
Uh-huh.
But I feel like what you said last week was right, where it's just an open area that it plops you in. It's like, go, right?
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, there's this guy. He's giving you a scavenger hunt. You could do that, I guess.
Yeah, that's the Crown Tundra. It's like, here's a scavenger hunt you could do, I suppose. Go out there and catch Pokemon.
Or you could do what that guy's daughter is doing and just go and catching Pokemon. Have fun.
Yeah, that's all Crown Tundra is, so I'm a little disappointed in that. I don't know how much more I'm going to play, honestly, because I just want to wait a year and play the next actual Pokemon game.
I might get back into Let's Go. Because at least, I mean, I know the story.
Yeah.
You know, but at least it's a story.
I might have to play some more Let's Go. I think maybe the catching mechanic might hinder it from being a better game.
I mean, I don't like the catching mechanic at all, but I do. It's easier to shiny hunt for sure.
Yeah, but it was also so good, and it might just be because it has the classic Pokemon Red and Blue story.
Yeah.
Real quick, to give a shout out, and this is something we can talk about later when it actually comes out. There's a game coming out for PS5 I talked to you about.
Uh-huh.
And if you like Pokemon, you might want to check this out. It's called Temtem. Temtem. And it's all online, which might be iffy. It's an MMO, which might be the port that I lose you at, Courtney. But it looks interesting. You catch these things, and it's like Pokemon. It's like a Pokemon MMO, and it comes out PS5 in beta in December. I'm interested in checking it out, so we'll report back on that. But that's something for you guys to...
Maybe I should play more Pokemon Uranium. I quit that.
Yeah, you could do that, but my laptop isn't great.
No, you'll have to... Well, I mean, it's...
Pokemon Uranium.
It's Pokemon Uranium.
The best Pokemon game from what I hear.
No, it's not the best. If you don't know, it's a Pokemon game that is not licensed by Nintendo, but it's really good.
It's fan-made.
It's fan-made, and Nintendo shut that down.
Yeah. Well, on to what we've been doing. We've been watching the same shows we normally watch. Noe's in the...
Yeah, you know, The Voice, Monk.
Yeah, American Ninja Warrior,
Yes.
Masked Singer.
Yes.
So we've been watching those still.
Crazy.
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 And we've been playing some Trivial Pursuit. We got this family edition that comes with like adult questions and kid questions.
It's a lot easier than the Guinness edition that we have.
Yeah. Well, I would like a harder edition, honestly.
We need a normal Trivial Pursuit.
We should go online and see. You know one that they should make that I don't know if they do?
What?
And you might not like this, but I bet I can talk your sister and her husband into this.
Okay.
Only history version where the colors correspond to different histories.
I'd be into that, okay?
You into that?
I'm sure my sister and her husband would be like, they'd probably be around the same boat. It's like, well, I don't know, like, modern history that well. I don't know, like, ancient history. I mean, I know ancient history, but...
So that's when I would look.
Years are the problem for me, because I don't know years that good.
Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
1492?
Sir Headless Nick's death date?
1492? 1492.
Yeah, it's the same day. It's Halloween 1492. Very good. We've been playing more Unsolved True Crime.
Yes, we just got a new one in.
Did we talk about the one we solved last week?
I don't remember. It was good.
It was good. We solved 2 so far.
Yes, I solved that one completely on my own, basically. Yeah. You thought it was one of the witnesses and not one of the suspects.
He's sus. The witness guy was sus. There was some misleading information. I guess I was looking too much into the information.
If they would have made him a suspect, you would have full on
thought
been
it was
like,
him. Yeah.
It's him! They said his first name!
These Unsolved True Crime things are really good, and it makes me want to get into Hunt a Killer.
Yes, which is it's like a monthly
it's like a loot crate
thing.
kind of.
Yeah.
And if you buy a season up front, which is 6 boxes, 6 months.
It's like $100.
Yes, it is $100, but you get some Moscow Mule cups, which is my favorite drink. So I'm thinking about doing that.
I think it would be fun.
Yeah, it sounds like, or maybe you should do it, and that's my Christmas present.
No.
No?
No.
Okay, shit.
You already got your anniversary gift coming in that's like $50 that I just paid for.
I got you an Apple Watch for Christmas. Eh. And we're going to do this at like a top level because we're going to do an episode about all of them.
Yes.
Season 2 of The Mandalorian.
Yep. Episode 1.
We watched episode 1 this morning. Top level and like a sentence or so. No spoilers. What did you think about it?
It was interesting. I like some of the characters. I hope we see them more.
Yeah, I do hope we see some of the characters that appeared more. Some things that happen at the end of the episode make me want more.
Yeah.
Though I feel like the episode in itself was just like this one shot, let's go do this. It didn't really matter to the story much. Except for the last 30 seconds, I feel.
Well, we didn't know what the ending was. You had to look it up.
Yeah, I mean...
And then we were like, oh yeah, it does, yeah.
Yeah, so the last 30 seconds our story, matter to the overarching story. Arcing story, but the first 50 minutes, it's a fun episode.
Fun. I enjoyed it.
But it just seems like we're going to this place to do a mission that really doesn't involve what's happening big picture.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm excited for the rest of the season, we'll see. If you like listening to podcasts about things in nerd culture, you might enjoy listening to audiobooks that can transport you away on grand adventures to exciting worlds, all while you go about your daily tasks like driving, cooking, and cleaning. Audible is the perfect place for you to find epic tales, and right now, all listeners can get a 30-day free trial by going to audibletrial.com/nerdsatodds. I'm currently listening to Dune by Frank Herbert in preparation for the movie that comes out later this year, and it has really helped me fight the boredom induced by this pandemic. Audible has thousands of audiobooks available, and the best part is that with your free 30-day trial, you can download and listen to them all for free. So go to audible.com/nerdsatodds to get listening today. And now, on to the topic of the show, the podcast.
Yes.
That's going to be the title. I bet no one's going to click on that. but it can't be as bad as Deductive Reasoning as the title. Is that my worst title so far?
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah. Be the Batman was good.
Be the Batman? Yeah, well, that's the tagline for the Arkham games.
Yeah.
So I just stole that. How this is going to work is I'm going to talk about a show I watch. Courtney's going to talk about a show she watches or listens to. These are podcasts.
And you can chime in because sometimes you listen to the ones I listen to.
Yeah, and then Courtney has like 24 on this list.
No, I don't. I have 11.
Courtney has 11 on this list. I have, you know what? Maybe I do have about the same. I just listened to a bunch from the same people. So maybe we're about the same.
Okay.
So we're going to hop on into this. First, I'm going to throw out the one that I know you have no clue what it is. The 538 Political Podcast. 538.
You listen to it like every night.
It's a daily podcast.
It's weird.
538, if you don't know, is the number of electoral votes in the United States. One for each senator, one for each member of the House of Representatives. That's how it works. I like it. Nate Silver and them, they do good work. It's not political, right? It's about politics, but it's polls and statistics.
It's not like right wing, left wing.
Yeah, they are as neutral as anybody you can find. It's almost entirely about data and statistics and stuff like that.
So if you don't like data and statistics, maybe not for you.
Maybe not for you, but they're very insightful, I find.
My turn?
Yes, your turn.
Okay. The first one I'm going to talk about is called Aaron Mahnke's Cabinet of Curiosities. It's a very fun podcast. It's very short, He's got tons of episodes out. Each episode has 2 stories of, like, interesting things that's, like, kind of weird, but cool in a way. Maybe sometimes they're creepy. And there's, like, an ad break in between. And Aaron Mahnke also does lore, which I was listening to at first, but then I got off of lore because I've listened to a lot of, like, myths and legends podcasts and things along those lines. So I just wanted to, like, consolidate. But Aaron Mahnke's very good. Great storyteller. Very interesting.
Okay. Very cool, very cool. And up next, I just wrote the CLS family of shows, but I'm going to talk about each one of them singly so we can like have more back and forth. CLS is Colin's Last Stand. It's Colin Moriarty, one of the founding members of Kind of Funny, broke off 2-3 years ago, do his own thing. The first one I'm going to talk about is Sacred Symbols. It's the weekly show about PlayStation. And I really enjoy it. Him and Chris Maldonado are the host of the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good. It's about 3 hours long.
So that's a long podcast.
It's what I wanted this podcast to be at the beginning, but Courtney talked me down to 45 minutes to an hour. But it's 3 hours every week. PlayStation news.
That's nearly off-topic levels of podcast.
Yeah. Well, usually it takes them about 30 minutes to an hour to get into the stories because they just talk about random stuff happening in their lives.
Yeah.
But
I have people that do that, but they don't ramble that long.
Yeah. So the first one from CLS Family Shows is Sacred Symbols.
It definitely sounds like off-topic. I would talk about off-topic, but that's not on my podcast listening.
You watch that.
That's on my YouTube watching.
Yeah.
So different.
Okay.
In my opinion. Because it's not as fun if you just listen to it. I've tried.
Probably.
Okay, anywho. Next is a podcast called Fictional. It's by this man named Jason Weiser. And basically he just does like... it's like an hour-long podcast. And he'll break up books or short stories. And he'll basically just tell you the whole of the story. My favorite was when he did The Count of Monte Cristo, which is one of my favorite books. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I love how witty it is. I love like trying to piece everything together. Like, why would Edmond Dante be thrown into prison? That sort of thing. And it's just, I love the way he tells the stories. He does a couple of podcasts as well, which I also have on here.
This is the one that did what's the name of it? It was this blob they got in space.
Yes.
And it wanted like the captain or someone to eat it, and then once the captain actually ate it, it took over the captain's body.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did that, right?
That one. He did the Cthulhu one.
Yeah, we was the Cthulhu one. Hold up, we listened to the Cthulhu one.
So
and...
the way he did the Cthulhu one is different from the book. He told it from like a first person standpoint, I think, or like a modern, not modern, but like it was all happening at in a cohesive story, whereas the actual story, I think, like bounces around a bit.
I love that, and I borrowed the Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu is the book, right?
Yes.
I borrowed it.
It's a short story.
I borrowed it from you to read it.
Yeah.
And I hated it. And the podcast about Cthulhu, the Call of Cthulhu, was amazing, and I would like to see that version in a movie. The way he paced it and all that, great. H.P. Lovecraft, racist hack. This guy, great.
Yeah, I think Jason Weiser is one of my favorite podcasters.
Yeah. I've liked everything I've heard from him.
Yeah, well, he also does Myths and Legends, which I'll talk about soon.
Okay. Next up on my list, sticking with CLS, they do a show called Knockback, which is Colin and his brother Dagan. Dagan is one of the lead animators on Sesame Street, and they talk about things that they're like nostalgic for, or topics that the audience on Patreon votes for.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the latest one was on Horizon Zero Dawn, which isn't really nostalgic, but I like listening to the episodes that they do that I'm interested in. So I'll skip a couple, but I love all the Star Wars ones or the movies I have seen that they talk about or the games I played. Mm-hmm. They're very in-depth, I guess, and knowledgeable about those things, and it's entertaining to listen to people talk about things you like. This is also like God, which one was it? I think it was the episode 1 Star Wars show.
Yeah.
It was like 4.5 hours. So you're gonna have to listen to this.
There's the thing where if you like the people that are talking in the podcast, like you like their voice, you like who they are as a person, you can listen to them forever because it's entertaining.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're like that.
Yeah, I have a cool accent, you guys. You want to listen to me more.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Gets comments on it all the time.
But yeah, so those are two. I still have more to talk about from CLS. I'm up to 7.5 hours a week or so of CLS.
Oh, goodness.
All right, your next one?
So next I have one. It's called Hostage. So all of the ones that I have listed were all on Apple Podcast. But Hostage moved from Apple Podcast to Spotify only. So that's a little, I don't listen to it as much anymore because all their backlog has just been moved to Spotify. They have maybe one episode up on Apple Podcast. So if you want to listen to Hostage, it's on Spotify. It's a Parcast podcast. I listen to a couple Parcast podcasts. The hosts are Irma Blanco and Carter Roy. And they're really good storytellers. I really enjoyed it. They switch talking about a narrative in between. And I know some people don't like when there's two podcasters and one is talking about taking a narrative and then they switch and it takes people out. I'm fine with it. I listen to a lot of podcasts with two people instead of just one. But if it's not your thing, don't listen to it. But most of the Parcast podcasts are two people switching narratives, that sort of thing.
Okay. You said this was the Hostage one?
Yes, so basically it's situations where people are maybe kidnapped. They did a episode on it's gonna kill me. What's her name? Patty Hearst. They did an episode on a couple episodes on Patty Hearst. Which if you don't know, Patty Hearst was the granddaughter of a big newspaper guy, and she got kidnapped by this militia group in the United States, and she was held hostage, basically tortured, kept in isolation. The only people she had had interaction with were her kidnappers, and then she kind of got the Stockholm syndrome and actually became one of them and like held up a bank and stuff. So it's very interesting, and it's like how she went from like heiress to radical, like militant group to like pardoned by the president sort of thing. And they do tons of them. You know, sometimes it's a short hostage situation, and sometimes it's like years of being held hostage. So
yeah, I think the only one I listened to that of was the Russian one in that theater.
Yeah.
So, and I that didn't turn out well.
No, it did not turn out well.
Didn't the Russians
Some of them do not turn out well.
Yeah.
Some of them are like you know, you gotta be careful. I listen to a lot of crime ones, so some of these can be very like graphic. And you know, like sometimes it's a man grabbing a woman and bad things happen, and then years later she can get free or not, depending.
Okay. Well, next on my list, the last of the COS podcast is called Sacred Symbols Plus. It's their weekly PlayStation podcast for patrons only. And Sacred Symbols, the one that goes live for free after it's on Patreon for a couple of days, is like news topics and stuff, like breaking stuff.
Yeah.
Sacred Symbols Plus is more kind of like this show, where it's a topic and they discuss it. So like the last one they did, they ranked the Sony first party studios and things like that. So I don't know, I like PlayStation. I like video games.
You're a PlayStation boy.
Yeah, a Sony pony is what they're called.
Sony pony.
Yeah, if you're looking for the derogative.
I mean, I'm just like a Nintendo girl, so whatever. I don't care.
I don't know what they called Nintendo.
Uh-huh.
Because Xbox people are Xbots.
Yeah.
BOTS.
Probably like just children.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but
It's like,
I thought
you're a child.
Yeah, I thought you would get mad at me, but yeah, I think it might be children.
I like how it looks. I loved how it. Anyway, next is Myths and Legends by Jason Weiser again. You know, basically classic myths, you know, that you have heard before, but maybe like there's a different twist on it. You don't know the true story. You know, he's talked about Cinderella, Mulan, those sorts of things, and then there's like myths you've never heard of, perhaps. You know, like there's ones on like Native American like stories. There's ones on like Greek mythology, Viking mythos, African mythology, and then you also have stuff like King Arthur. Like he goes all over the board, and I love it. And usually it'll be like 2, maybe 3 episodes. For the shorter ones, just 1 episode will do. And then he always has like a creature of the week, which is just some like maybe a Kelpie or like some sort of spirit or some short little thing that, and he's like, you just never go in the woods, don't go in caves, don't be on the street alone, none of that. Don't leave your house.
Especially now.
Don't anger the spirits. Don't anger the sprites, fairies, gnomes, everything.
Okay. Well, next up is the Kind of Funny family of shows. And if I wasn't getting enough video game podcasts with CLS, over to Kind of Funny. Now, I did fall off of Kind of Funny for a while after Colin left, but I've came back to them recently. The first one I want to talk about, I'm going to say, is Games Daily. It's about an hour-long daily podcast, Monday through Fridays, about breaking video game news. And if you guys want to know how much of a nerd I am, I listen to this daily. So I consume scores of hours of video game news podcasts a week.
I'm very happy that I met you, another podcast person, but I would have also liked to have been like the person to introduce you to podcast, and then you just absorb all of them.
No, I only listen to the ones I like. I like video game podcasts and political podcasts.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But I have gotten you into some of mine.
Yeah, I enjoy listening to some of yours with you.
I think you would have liked. There's a podcast called Stuff
You Missed in History Class.
You Missed in History Class.
I actually have the episodes queued up on my phone, but I haven't listened to them yet.
They're good. I don't listen to it as much.
This is something that annoys some of our friends that are historians, and Courtney's sister and brother who are also history majors. I am an Americanist. Pre-Civil War, Americanist. I don't really care about much else. It doesn't interest me.
I love all history.
If you want me to, I can tell you about the politics of the American South from 1815 to 1816. That's my area.
No, 1 year. 1 year.
No, 15 to 60.
Oh, I thought you said 16,
No.
and I was like, 1 year?
I specialize
You specialize in 1815 specifically.
Good year.
Shall I continue?
Yeah, that's all I got for this one.
Okay, so there's a show called Red Web, and it's by Alfredo Diaz and Trevor Collins.
Of Rooster Teeth.
Of Rooster Teeth, Achievement Hunter. Alfredo's got links to Kind of Funny.
Yeah.
Basically, what they do is they do interesting mysteries. Like the one you listened to with me.
Yeah, the lead mask people who were found dead in Brazil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've also done ones like, what was it? It was like some guy that, like, maybe the WikiLeaks guy.
Oh, I didn't listen to
I don't remember. Anywho, it's all about, like, mysteries. Doesn't have to be murdery, but sometimes it is.
Courtney prefers it when it is.
Murder! But it's good. It's not... They're just starting out with the podcast thing, so it's not as good at the moment. They're still trying to figure out their stride, I think, and where each of them can talk.
Do you think we figured out our strides yet?
No, I
you
just
don't
yell at you, and that's our stride.
That's our shtick. Speaking of murder, real quick, this isn't a podcast, but I'd be remiss to not shout out BuzzFeed Unsolved.
It's on Hulu.
Yeah,
and I think it's also YouTube.
Yeah, and maybe it is in podcast form somewhere. But
probably.
I like watching the actual show.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, the two people play off of each other well.
They also have, like, Unsolved Supernatural, which is, like, ghosts and aliens and Bigfoot and stuff like that.
I don't mess with the ghosts.
I don't like watching the demon episodes when I'm alone, but Alex doesn't watch it with me, so I just skip the demon ones.
Yeah, that's not happening.
They're creepy.
Anything else about Red Web before I go on to my next one?
No, it's good. I haven't listened to it a lot because it's newer.
Yeah.
And I haven't reached that point in my backlog. I'm still, like, last year sometime, I think. No, I think it's about to hit quarantine time.
Oh, about March.
Like, it's about to, but I'm very far back because you maybe hold off on listening to a certain podcast, and their episodes have piled up, and I
have to get through them.
I have to get through them because now you're like, you can listen to it without me.
So, next on my list, still in the Kind of Funny house, I'm going to go through the games ones first before I get into the other ones. Next up is the weekly Kind of Funny Games Cast, which is a lot like Sacred Symbols, except that it covers just the big stories that week in video games.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can imagine what it is. I like video game podcasts. I still have one more to talk about after this, so...
Yeah, I'm sure.
So, yeah. Right, back to you.
Back to me. So next is the one that has the giant backlog, which is Serial Killers. It's another podcast. It's by Vanessa Richardson and Greg Polcyn? Greg Polcyn, that's it, yeah.
Okay.
Vanessa Richardson and Greg Polcyn.
Serial Killers.
So, you go ahead.
I have listened to a lot of these with you.
Mm-hmm.
I like to pick and choose.
Yeah.
I get overwhelmed sometimes listening to a serial killer podcast where I just feel like
defeated.
Down. Yeah, I can't listen to too many of them, and it doesn't bother you that much, I guess.
I mean, I'm on one right now where I'm like, gosh, I don't know if I can get through this. Like, I finished the first episode, and they're like, yeah, and then he got caught, but somehow he still murdered 20 more people. And I'm like, what did the police do? What did they do?
So yeah, I just feel so defeated.
I mean, I've got a huge backlog of it, and it's not one I can listen to while trying to go to sleep at night. I mean, I can maybe listen to, like, Unsolved Murders, but because they don't really. It's like maybe one person that dies, and you're like, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's whatever. We're just trying to figure out who could have done it. Whereas serial killers, it's just like death, 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 more death. Keep it going, you know. But it's really good. It's another Parcast podcast. I have 2 more podcasts on my list.
So that's just the brand they're under, right?
Yes.
Like the umbrella corporation.
Well, a lot of if you listen to who I say is like hosting it, there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
Not with serial killers and hostage, but serial killers. Well, not serial killers, but hostage and like survival. They have a similar host in common. So, you know.
Okay. Well, next up on my list, the last video game related podcast, still part of the Kind of Funny shows, is PS I Love You XOXO. Greg and their new host is Blessing, and it's just about PlayStation. So yeah, there you go. It's just Sacred Symbols, but Greg and Blessing.
Who's Blessing?
Oh, what's his last name? Andiode. His first name's Blessing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce his last name right now, but he's good. It's the show Colin and Greg used to do.
That's a nice name, Blessing.
But, yeah.
I hope that's his given name.
I think it is, yeah.
That's a good
one. Well,
one.
there was a guy on The Voice who had a brother whose name was Praise Jesus.
Yes,
so.
Praise Jesus. That guy, the guy's name on The Voice was named Thunderstorm.
Yeah. Well,
great name.
Blessing is a junior, so I'm assuming it's his dad's name.
Interesting.
Too, so. Yeah, they have good chemistry. I still miss Greg and Colin because, you know, they did Podcast Beyond for like a decade before they did this, but it's fine. You have to let it go sometimes when people leave shows.
Yeah.
So I just listen to both now, which just gives me, you know,
more to do.
The 20 hours of video game podcasts I listen to a week.
So the next one is a big one for me. It is the Stuff You Should Know podcast. I love these guys. Chuck Bryant and Josh Clark. They have podcasts on everything.
Yeah, all the stuff you should know.
Literally, it's like, oh, you can just go through and pick and choose. I try and listen to all of them, but sometimes I'll be like, I don't care about this subject, you know?
Yeah, I don't let a backlog build up. I just pick and choose my podcasts.
I mean, that's good for you. But I don't pick and choose. I like to listen to them all. But if it seems really boring, like, maybe, you know, like zoning laws. I mean, they don't have like it's not like how it's made, you know, but it's like everything you ever wanted to know about giraffes, everything you ever wanted to know about like how the Electoral College works.
That's a good video. It's probably a good podcast.
Everything you would like to know about this one specific dude. Who was it that like
DB? Did we watch one about? Let's do one about DB Cooper.
We listened to one about DB Cooper.
That's interesting.
They had one about Buchanan.
James Buchanan.
James Buchanan, the president.
I think mine was president.
Yeah, but it was interesting.
Well, yeah, it's James Buchanan.
They had one about the story of the guy that, like the black guy that actually infiltrated the KKK.
Oh, from Black Klansman?
Yeah. They, like, had that actual story, which was fun.
Yeah, you read that book, too.
I should read the book.
Watch the movie.
Haven't watched the movie.
I think it's my favorite podcast that you listen to.
It's really good.
I like those two guys a lot.
You know, I can just go through it, and they do that thing where they talk about some random thing in the beginning, and they get off track, and they talk about their producer all the time, and their producer Jerry, she's great. You never hear her, but she has miso soup, and I just love how they all interact together.
Yeah. Okay. Well, next up on my list are the Kind of Funny podcasts, which I have 2 left that I listen to on the regular. The first one is the Kind of Funny podcast. That's the name of it. It used to be the Game Over Greggy show, which was Greg Miller's like PlayStation username. But they changed it to the Kind of Funny podcast to be more inclusive, I feel.
Yeah.
It's just the off topic of Kind of Funny. I do pick and choose my topics, though. if they have a nice headline, I'll be like, oh, I'll listen to this, and then I'll skip through the podcast just to get to that part. So, but it's interesting every now and then to listen to some of their topics.
I like listening to the ranting of the Off Topic podcast. I really do.
Yeah, the best ones I think are when Greg loses all cool and just goes off the deep end, and Greg, he's crazy.
Yes.
So that's fun to listen to.
Takes his shirt off.
Yeah, I like it when he's trying to do a bit but can't stop laughing to actually do the bit because he thinks what he's about to do is so funny. I like that a lot. So that's the next podcast I'll listen to. How about you?
Okay, so next I have Survival, another podcast by Irma Blanco and Tim Johnson. There's Irma again. So it's basically about like people who've gone through like a tough time. Like there was a guy who had cancer and he was a jockey, and he actually like was able to come back and win a race. There's been ones of like people surviving hurricanes and tsunamis and forest fires. Like there's this guy I listened to recently, the podcast on him, and he was like one of those people that fight forest fires. And I think they're called like smoke jumpers, something along those lines. I think that's a specific one.
Firefighters?
He's a firefighter for the wilderness. And he had a hard time, and then they went to fight this one specific fire, and he was like, they had left him at base camp to like take care of everybody and be like the radio guy. And then like all of his comrades died in that fire. And it's like, oh my gosh, to be the one person left that survived is crazy.
I listen to a lot of downers.
There's some downers, but there's some uplifting ones, because like that guy, he got cancer, but then he got better from it. He did good eventually, and he actually won a race as a jockey, like a big one. So that was good.
Okay.
It's good. I think they're like doing something weird right now. It's not the same. I haven't gotten to that point yet where they change, but I think they changed once the quarantine started. The episodes are different now. I don't know, but It's different. I haven't gotten there yet, but the backlog is good.
Okay. Next on my list, the last of the kind of funny shows I'll listen to is the Ranked. I don't know what the actual title of it is. It's like we rank everything in this series, right? Right now they're doing Batman, which shout out to our Batman episode that we did. It's pretty much that, except they do one movie a week. They just did Batman Begins. They do it chronologically, so they started at Adam West, and now they're up to Batman Begins.
I love Adam West.
Batman Begins, their favorite Batman movie so far, out of all the ones they've done up till the end.
That's fair.
Yeah, Christian Bale, their favorite Batman. I think they said every actor who plays a role is their favorite of that role. So...
Well, next I'll get into Unobscured.
Okay, I've never heard of this one.
So, Unobscured is a podcast. I told my sister about it. I'm sure I told you about it.
Yeah. Well, hold on. It's obscure to me, so...
Unobscured is what it's called.
I know, but it's obscure to me. I haven't seen it.
Quiet, you. It's by Aaron Mahnke, the same guy who does Cabinet of Curiosities and Lore, and probably more stuff. But, so, each season dives into a different subject, like a specific subject. So the first season was all about the Salem witch trials, and how it was more than just some whiny girls trying to get attention. Or, like, could it possibly be witchcraft? No. But it was, like, the intricacies of, like, oh, well, when someone's accused of witchcraft, the guy who arrests them gets all their land and money and stuff. So there was like all that interaction, and then you've got like all these young people, getting accused of witchcraft too. Like a whole family would basically be accused, just so no one else could inherit that land, And like, of course, the guy arresting everyone is related to this big family. And the big family has people that are accusing people of being witches. That sort of stuff's going on. And they even go into, like, the pressing of that one guy.
Oh, the rocks?
Yeah. So it's a very interesting podcast. So that was the first season. The second season was on like the spiritualist movement.
And how many seasons are there?
He just started the third season. I don't know what that one's about yet, but he just started it, and I think it's like maybe further back in time.
What podcast? You said spiritualism. We listened to a podcast on Harry Houdini and spiritualism.
Yeah.
Who did that one?
That was probably a Stuff You Should Know.
A Stuff You Should Know?
Honestly.
Okay.
But, like, this is all about spiritualism as in, like, when did spiritualism start? You know, when did the spiritualist movement start? And it's, like, how the spiritualist movement and the civil rights movement, they, like, helped each other out. And then, like, the women's lib movement, it all just sort of melded together. And it was kind of like, if you're one of those people that wants equal rights, you also sort of have that spiritualist mindset as well of like, oh, well, we're all equal when we move on anyway, you know? So it's very interesting. I like how he dives deep into a subject, and at the end of the season, after he finishes the story, he just posts all of his interviews specifically that he like conducted with the people, so you can just get the raw interview with like the expert.
Okay. Well, next on my list is a podcast that I only dabbled in, but I want to give it a shout out because I like what I've heard so far, and I love this duo. It's called Good Morning from Hell. It has Kristen Maris and Blaine Gibson from Rooster Teeth, and it is them playing the Blaine's Clayton character.
Yes.
If you've seen like Extra Life, he does it like he tortures Chris and Blaine dresses up like the devil, but it's Clayton, you know?
It's not Satan, it's Clayton. Clayton is his like brother or cousin or something.
Yeah, it's a comedy show where Clayton interviews people
in hell.
Who like come to hell. And I really enjoy it. I think the first episode is Harrison Ford, and it's pretty funny.
And they get like, you know, guests to come on, usually other Rooster Teeth people, to play these other people. Yeah,
so I'm pretty sure Chris plays a lot of them.
Maybe.
Yeah, because Blaine and Chris are good.
They're a good duo.
Dynamic. The dynamic duo over the Rooster Teeth. All right, next on your list?
So next is Unsolved Murders, True Crime Stories, another podcast. It's got Carter Roy and Wendy McKenzie. Carter Roy also does Hostage, which is only on Spotify. But Unsolved Murders is one of my favorites. I listen to it all the time. Each Unsolved Murder gets like 2 episodes, maybe more if it's a big one, like Edgar Allan Poe. I think he got more.
Well, Jack the Ripper got 4.
Jack the Ripper got 4. They did like The Beautiful Cigar Girl that like the story is actually based on, you know? And it's very interesting. It's, you know, it's one of those that I love the dynamic. I love Wendy. They usually have like 2 or 3 ads in an episode, but I just skip through with like the 30-second skip. But it's really good. I like it a lot. I listen to it a lot. I think it was my first podcast that I started listening to.
Okay.
The very first podcast I started listening to was Stuff You Should Know.
Seems apt.
The reason I started listening to Stuff You Should Know was because we had to listen to an episode of it for one of my classes, my abnormal psych class, and sort of like discuss it. And that sort of just opened the door for me to the rest of their podcasts.
How many episodes of Stuff You Should Know do you think you listened to before you found another podcast to also listen to?
I don't know.
You think you listened to a lot of them?
I think I listened to a lot, because I'm the kind of person that I get introduced to something and then I obsess over it and I watch all of it. So like the Super Carlin brothers, I watched like one of their videos and I really like the 2 brothers, and I just watched all of their backlog. And
they do a podcast about movies, I think, called Popcorn Talk.
Popcorn.
You listen to that at all?
I've listened to maybe like a little bit, but I haven't listened to it a lot. Once I catch up a little bit more with my back.
Yeah.
Log,
I feel like that might be one you could listen to while trying to go to sleep.
I feel like if I could get you, I think you would be into it. Popcorn maybe Talk? As well.
Oh, see what the topics are.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick. that reminds me of one I want to shout out before I give my official next one. Like you said with Off Topic, this one is only video, right?
What?
So the podcast about to talk about. I watched it on YouTube,
Okay.
but it's just him talking,
Mhm.
so it kind of counts. And you're talking about Popcorn Talk, a movie podcast.
I don't think that's called.
It's not Popcorn Talk?
I think it's just like popcorn pod. I don't remember.
Well, anyways, the one I'm talking about is Dan Mull. He used to be part of Screen Junkies. Now he has his own YouTube channel. He does a weekly podcast called Shots with Dan, where he talks about box office numbers for the week and movie news.
It's called Popcorn Culture.
Popcorn Culture is the Coen Brothers one.
Yes.
But Dan Mull does I guess it's a show, but it's just him talking. So he should make a podcast out of it. It's called Charts with Dan, like I said, box office numbers, new news in movies, right? It's kind of hard to do in the time of COVID, but he keeps it fun, keeps it interesting, and I really like the informative side of it.
Okay.
Now into my final actual pick, which somehow worked out fine because you have one left too.
I do have one.
So this worked out beautifully. My last pick is one that Courtney has no interest in. I could probably get her to listen to 538's political podcast if I get her to listen to this one. This is the Joe Budden podcast. Do you know who Joe Budden is?
I have no clue.
You don't know who Joe Budden is?
No.
Joe Budden, babe, is a rapper from New Jersey. Okay? He raps Pump It Up. You know, pump, 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 pump it up.
Sure.
You know that song? Yeah. Yeah. One of the old members of Slaughterhouse, okay? Which is a rap group with Royce da 5'9", Crooked Eye, right? Joe Budden podcast. It's about rap music and rap culture. So I like Joe Budden. Joe Budden.
Stuff you should know had a podcast, I think, about rap. Maybe. I know they had one about, like, it wasn't ska.
Ska music.
It was like, I don't remember what it was. It was like emo music.
No.
It was emo music.
Well,
something.
I like the Joe Budden podcast, so.
Anywho, my last one, my very last one, is one of my favorites. It's called Welcome to Night Vale. And the host is Cecil Baldwin, but he's not the writer of the show, but he's the host. I don't remember the writer's name, so that's unfortunate. I should have wrote that down. Anywho, it's basically supposed to be like a radio show, like in this one specific town called Night Vale, and Night Vale's a weird town, and there's like this whole story through it as well, but you don't really need the whole story. You can just listen to one individually, most of them. And it's just really interesting, you know, like, like in the first few episodes, there's like Cecil, who is the host of this radio show that goes through like the weather, which is always some different band playing a song, and it's usually some strange song. And then you've got like community calendar and traffic report, but it's all like really weird. One of the, like, he'll be like, oh, I found a cat and it's floating 3 feet off the floor in the men's bathroom of the radio show, and I've decided to name it Koshak, and he's my cat. It's sad that I can't, take him anywhere, but he's there floating. And then, like, later on, recently, they've had an episode where they're like, oh, yeah, the cat show, and Koshak's entered in. And it's like, oh, yeah, his teeth are looking great, and he's floating 3 feet off the floor. They decide to have the show in the bathroom to accommodate Koshak. But the cats aren't actual cats. They're, like, weird mutant animals. It's really fun. And you really get involved with the characters of Cecil, and then you got Carlos, and they'll introduce like tons of different characters, like the faceless old woman who lives in your home, and there's Deb the glow cloud. It's really fun.
Okay, that might be one I could be interested in.
It's really interesting. one of my friends back in high school tried to get me to listen to it, which is how I found it. Because I was just like, oh, what podcast, whatever, blah. And then, like, I started listening to podcasts, and I was like, maybe I should try that Welcome to Night Vale thing.
Maybe you're right the first time. Podcasts are lame.
No. But I really want some, like, Night Vale merch.
Okay.
But I just haven't
Got around to it.
There's some really cool stuff. They do have, I remember, because they talk about it almost every podcast. It's like, oh, you know, if you want some of our merch, you can get some shorts that have creepy written on the butt. And
But that's not what I want.
that's not what I want. But they have, like, mugs and, like, pens, t-shirts.
We could always use new mugs.
Yeah.
Buy 2, I could break 1. We could use one to drink out of.
Buy 2, break 1. That's the deal.
Yeah, that's the deal. Nerds at Odds is made possible by our supporters over on patreon.com/nerdsatodds. If you want to become a member of our community and gain access to the show 4 days early, gain the ability to submit your questions, comments, and concerns, and so much more, consider supporting us over there. Thank you. So that's it for this topic, our podcast topic. Be sure to comment over on patreon.com/nerdsatodds. Anything we missed.
If you have any interesting podcasts, you know, I am always open for suggestions of podcasts. I'll at least listen to one episode.
Yeah.
See how I like it.
You know what? We forgot one of our favorite podcasts. The Nerds at Odds podcast.
Yes.
The weekly podcast about all things in nerd culture and beyond. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex.
Actually in my podcast list, but I always go, like, mark as read.
Yeah.
And
I just like to see that it's posted.
Yeah.
So I try to keep up with. Yeah. So, on into Kita's corner.
Yes.
Who should be a happy cat today because she got a fillet of chicken.
Yes.
So.
Not like a whole, it was like a cat treat.
Yeah, that is just a fillet of chicken breast.
Yeah, but it is, like, juicy chicken breast. Like,
100% white meat.
Like, I would maybe eat that.
I
don't know what preservatives they're using, but...
Yeah.
Because apparently it lasts till next year.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's actual chicken.
Yeah, so she's excited. So what does Kita wants to know this week?
She wants to remind you to spay and neuter your pets. Adopt from a pet shelter. When possible, if you want a pet and can take care of one. And she would also like to ask for more fillets.
More fillets, more treats?
Fillets, more treats.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if your children are asking for a pet this Christmas season, this holiday season, since it's coming up soon, we're about 6 weeks away when this posts, maybe adopt a pet for them.
And I would urge you, please, don't just buy a pet, give it to your kid, and then the kid gets bored with it, and you're like, throw it outside.
Yeah, and don't get the pet and wrap it in a box and put it under the tree for 2 weeks.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. And don't try to poke holes in that box while the pet is inside of it with a sharp knife. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
All bad things. I mean, you know...
Maybe let them have that gift early, if it's a pet. It's
just, you know, people buy pets sometimes, and then for Christmas or birthdays or something,
Easter.
And then Easter, especially with baby chicks and ducks, and then people are like, oh, these chicks are growing up into chickens, don't have a place to put them, get rid of them.
Yeah.
You know, don't get rid of your pets. A pet, it's not, especially cats and dogs and those sort of things, they learn to trust you, and they will love you no matter what, and then you abandon them, and then they become, like...
Never trust again.
Violent animals sometimes, and then they bite someone, and then they have to be put down. You don't want that.
Yeah, don't want that. So, adopt from a shelter when you can.
Yes.
And now on into the interesting fact of the day. I didn't want to over-encumber y'all with stats, but this is an interesting one that deals with podcasts that we might be able to riff off of for a little bit. So, babe, what is the interesting fact for today?
So the interesting fact is that 32% of the U.S. population says that they listen to podcasts at least once a month.
Does that seem low to you?
I think that's about on par. Because I talk to a lot of people about podcasts because I'm always trying to, like, push podcasts on people because they're an interesting thing to like.
Just the format, not any show in particular.
Well,
just the
I mean some in particular, but not ours because I don't want to seem needy.
We should post flyers around town.
No, but they're great to listen to in a car when you're driving. They're great for if you're walking around campus, if you're a college student. When I was in college, I would just put in a podcast, go walk to my next class, turn it off when I got there. It would be great,
Yeah, it's a morning radio show you can pick out.
Yeah,
kind of,
for your car ride. If you're at work and you don't really have to like pay attention, just put in maybe one headphone or two, listen to a podcast while you work.
There you go. I think it's going to catch on more. I feel like it's a growing platform.
I think so. And once more people, like I've been trying to get my sister into more podcasts. My mom, I've been trying to get into podcasts, but she refuses.
Yeah, she still has cable though, so. Who has cable?
She doesn't have cable, she has satellite.
Oh, who has satellite?
No one has cable. Some people still have satellite.
But yeah, so I think it's a format that's going to catch on, with Nerds at Odds spearheading the way.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, we're bringing in scores of followers. Dozens.
Singles of followers.
Scores and dozens are really close to being the same number.
Yes.
But scores sounds much more impressive than dozens.
Yes.
So.
Because a score is 20.
Yeah. But a score sounds like more than 2 dozen.
Yeah.
So. Well, there you have it. Before we get on out of here today, Courtney and I want to talk about something to you, the fans. What should we call our fan base?
If we have one.
Babe, there are scores, I said.
Scores.
What should we call our fan base?
I was thinking, like, oddities, because we're nerds at odds.
Yeah, so
I thought nerds at first, but that just kind of sounds mean. Yeah. But, like, oddities.
Yeah. Oddities. I kind of like oddities. It also might seem a bit mean, though.
It does seem a little mean.
Yeah.
But I'm odd. I go for the...
Yeah.
I think that I am an odd person, but I'm okay with it.
Well, it's not like... So there would be the Nerds at Odds oddities, right?
Yeah.
It's not like we're calling them the Nerds at Odds whack jobs or something like that. Like...
The freaks!
So, I think oddities is pretty good.
Yeah.
Nerds at Odds... Fanatics?
A fanatic seems a little like they're gonna follow us home and watch us sleep, sort of thing.
Mm.
Or that story where the woman kidnaps her favorite author, breaks his legs, and
she doesn't kidnap him.
She does.
No, he gets in a car wreck, and she happens to take care of him at her house, and then holds him there against his will.
That's still kidnapping.
Is that kidnapping?
I think so.
Okay. That's a Stephen King book called Misery. That's where that's from.
I feel like he felt that way. Like he was trapped by his fans.
Maybe. I've tried to read one Stephen King book and I did not like it.
I'm not into it.
So.
But, if you have any suggestions.
Yeah, comment them below. Comment them over on Patreon, on the YouTube video. Comment them.
It is on YouTube.
Yes, send them over to twitter.com/nerdsatodds, instagram.com/nerdsatodds.
I think that's it.
I'm seeing how long I can get away with this pause.
No, don't pause anymore.
Don't pause anymore?
Don't pause anymore.
Okay, guys, we're going to head on out. This lasted longer than I expected.
I have a lot to say about podcasts.
Yeah, what are we doing next week?
It's your turn to figure that out. I came up with the podcast.
Okay, so next week, no clue. The week after that is going to be... Because the week after that's going to be, what, the 13th?
I don't know.
No, this episode comes on the 6th. Yeah, next episode comes on the 13th. The week after that, the week of the 20th, we're going to have 2 shows for you. We're going to have the Next Gen Console episode. The special episode is going to go live for free as soon as I'm done editing it.
Which will probably be on Monday.
Yeah, everywhere. Then the next episode is going to come out like it normally rolls out 4 days early on Patreon, Friday for free. It's going to be our Thanksgiving special.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Are we going to be recording 2 podcasts in one day?
No, I'm assuming it's going to be different days.
Well, you're going to edit 2 podcasts.
Yeah.
The other one's going to be about Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's going to be our Thanksgiving special. So we have a lot coming out.
Who knows what we're going to do for the Thanksgiving special?
Favorite foods? Favorite Thanksgiving songs? Maybe we should write a Thanksgiving song.
I'm not writing a song, and you're definitely not singing a song.
I'll write, you sing.
No.
I write, Keita sings.
Keita can't sing.
Don't say that to her. You're gonna hurt her feelings. Keita, no. I'll write the song. You'll perform it.
No.
We need a theme song.
We don't need a theme song.
We need a theme song.
We'll just get some, like, generic music that's free.
Generic free music?
Yeah.
I could write a theme song.
And listen, we have a friend who plays music. They can do it.
I play music.
I know.
That hurts my feelings. I'm thinking the theme song be Nerds at Odds. Nerds at
Can you
Odds.
stop? Alright, we're wrapping things up.
No, we can make this longer than the Halloween special. You can't make me stop. Don't touch the button.
Bye!
So anyways, guys, Nerds at Odds is made possible by our supporters over on patreon.com/nerdsatodds. If you want to become a member of our community and gain access to the show 4 days early, gain the ability to submit your questions, comments, and concerns, and so much more, consider supporting us over there. Thank you, and have a great day.